This is the daily writing exercise recorded, day 43, titled Blasia. Imagine yourself a man trapped inside of his own home, although he doesn't know it yet. His name is Jonathan Brooks, a young man of 35, clean-shaven, with brown eyes that stare intensely at everything the world has to offer, although they see little through his thick-rimmed glasses. What Mr. Jonathan Brooks does not know is that his sister, in her usual state of drunkenness, attempted to enter his apartment during the middle of the night. She used a key, metallic and prodding, and thrust it into the lock into which it did not fit. The key broke off, and its bottom half is now stuck in that lock, nestled in between the warmth of the lock's cylinders, whose purpose has now been rudely interrupted. Jonathan Brooks diligently worked away at funding his retirement. He worked 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, and had yet to take a single sick or vacation day off. Things were going well when Jonathan finished up and ended his workday by logging off and closing his laptop. He left the small white-painted office and headed for the hallway. He stopped at the bathroom first, where he checked his appearance and remodeled his hair a bit to appear more presentable to the world. His face was a bit tired and his eyes a little sunken in, though that was not that abnormal for Jonathan. He left the bathroom and put on his shoes and coat in the hallway. A quick check for his wallet, keys and phone, and Jonathan was ready to leave. He placed his key into the locking mechanism but found it did not want to go in. He tried it a few more times but never got any further than an inch or so. Confused, Jonathan turned on the light in the hallway and tried to put his key back in. When that did not work, Jonathan questioned whether he had been using the right key and tried a few others. He came to his senses and quickly determined that something had to be wrong with the lock itself. He crouched down and peered at it with his mouth half open. He could not see it clearly but could tell that there was something stuck in there. He wasn't sure what it was though and tried to put his key back in again, hoping to push away whatever was blocking it. He pushed on it hard and tried to force his key in, which obviously did not work. Stumped and slightly panicked already, Jonathan kneeled down again and peered at the lock. He took his phone out and turned the flashlight on to get a better look, upon which the truth was revealed to him. A curse escaped his lips as all manner of horrible things were wished upon his sister. He knew it had to be her, seeing as he entered his apartment quite late that previous day. She was the only one that did that sort of a thing, and had in fact done it before with his letterbox. Jonathan got back up again, turned the light on his phone off, and began to think. There was little he could do now. A locksmith would have to be called, though Jonathan reckoned the whole lock would likely have to be replaced anyway, so he might as well do it himself. Though, it was a new lock for which he did not really have the money for, and even if he did, he could not possibly receive it when it was delivered. So, a locksmith it would have to be. Jonathan took his phone out again and tried to surf the internet, but found he had no connection. Unsure of what had happened, Jonathan walked into the living room and gazed at the modem laying there on the floor. Its lights blinked happily away and told him there was something wrong. He took the power off and put it back in and waited for it to restart again. Yet despite his efforts, the internet did not turn on. Not entirely sure what to do next, Jonathan walked up to his living room window and gazed down at the street below to see if any of his neighbors had the same issue. From his living room window, Jonathan could see there was no one out there, that there was no one walking the streets, and that no car dashed by, disturbing the peace. Jonathan sighed deeply as he walked back to the sofa and sat down on it. He played with his phone in his hand while he thought of what to do next. He could always call someone, but who could he possibly call at this time of day that would actually come and do something for him? His friends were all at work themselves and lived too far away to do anything. His mother was an option, though she was not the most helpful of persons at the best of times. And then there was his sister, who was likely sleeping off her drunken stupor on his mother's couch. Jonathan decided to go against the convention and call one of his friends anyway. So what if they lived an hour plus away? There's no one else he could call anyhow. And as it turned out, as he tapped the call button, there really was no one he could call indeed. The phone did not even ring once and immediately gave him notice of the lack of available service. Jonathan tried to call again and also tried some other numbers, but none seemed to work. His panic state at this point had reached its full potential. There was clearly something wrong and he did not know what. He was stuck inside with nowhere to go. 4 hours passed by without anything happening. John had briefly given up and had paced around his home, waiting in front of his living room window to see if he could spot anyone walking by, or driving by for that matter. But in the 4 hours he stood there was not a single soul that passed his sight. It was dark now, and there was little to see. The street lights did not turn on, and neither did it seem did the lights in his apartment. Jonathan went to bed fearing what had happened and determined to just smash a window in the next morning if he did not get lucky. The next morning came and went. Jonathan woke up around 12, exhausted and covered in sweat. He woke up forgetting all that had happened the previous day. He got out of his bed and went through his routine by preparing to take a shower, only to find that there was no water to be had. It was then that he once again realized what had happened and what had gone wrong, and the memories of the previous day came flooding back in. Jonathan immediately headed for the living room window, where he anxiously gazed out of, desperate to find anyone that could help him. The internet was still out, and neither could he call anyone on his phone. He also had no water, electricity, or gas to cook with. The time was up. He had no choice. Jonathan approached his kitchen window and prepared to smash it in. He grabbed his large iron pot and gently threw it against it. The throw did little damage, and Jonathan needed to do more. He picked the pot back up and threw it again, this time much harder. The first of the double-glazed windows broke, so John had to throw it again a few more times before it actually broke completely. He then took a towel and used it to remove the larger shards and to gather up the little ones. With that out of the way, he was free, and John happily crawled through the window and out onto his balcony onto the other side. It was there where the truth was revealed to him. He was alone, still, but Jonathan had not realized just how alone. There was nothing. There was absolutely nothing beyond this street. All that existed beyond this street and beyond all of that was an empty flat surface covered in what seemed to be a hard white sand. Jonathan could not comprehend it and briefly lost his mind in the process. Where was he? And just what the hell had happened? No more has been written or recorded. Thank you for listening.